Hi guys, welcome back to SwitchUp. Merry Christmas. My name's Mark Walker. Do me a favour, if you are new to the channel, consider subscribing if you enjoy what you see. We are so close to 150k. Remember, we give away a free Nintendo Switch game each and every month. Some of them are decent and others not so much. But still, it's the thought that counts. Let me know down in the comments which was your worst Nintendo Switch game so far. But as promised, here are 10 of the worst games that I've played in 2020. Not all of them were released in 2020, but some received patches that didn't work and others are just awful. A couple of them at the end have been voted for by you guys, so I'll save those till last. And I'm also going to read out a couple of your comments from the community posts we did with your worst games because they are gold. What are the worst games of 2020 on Nintendo Switch? Well, let's find out. At number 10, we've got Blacksad. Now, I've revisited this 3 times with the hope that the patches that they've released would improve the experience, but unfortunately, what could have been an excellent spin-off from the graphic novels by Juan Diaz Canales turned out to be an absolute unmitigated disaster on Switch. You can round a corner and wait for about 60 seconds while the textures load in. Characters can pop in and out of reality, and you'll find jaggy edges on just about every surface. It's a real shame because, like I said, the graphic novels that these are based on are awesome, and deep down underneath here there's potentially a good game, but by all accounts the engine doesn't run well on any platform, but on Nintendo Switch, my word, it is terrible. An absolute avoid, don't pick it up. Next up then, a game that Glen introduced me to, and it's called Vegas Party. It's essentially 10 different gambling mini-games, and I guess the warning signs were already there from the eShop description. It says, welcome to the gambling-friendly universe of this over-the-top version of Las Vegas, but one of its key selling points is its extreme humoristic cliches of Sin City. What they forgot to mention is that the game is terrible. It's glitchy on Switch, it looks poor, like one of those cheap flash games you used to get in a browser, and clearly based on the 359 megabyte download size, they didn't spend a whole lot of time authentically recreating the Vegas experience. Although having said that, I guess in a way they are, because you're losing money if you make the mistake of purchasing this one. Absolutely awful, please do not buy it. Next up then, we've got the Elder Scrolls Blades. Now, as a huge Skyrim fan, I kind of knew what to expect with this one as it had been over on mobile. And, well, I wasn't disappointed. No, actually, I was really disappointed that they wasted their time porting something like this when games like New Vegas exist. I just don't understand it. What was even worse was that all across the Switch internet, everyone was like, oh yeah, this is alright, this is really enjoyable. No, it's not. It's absolute garbage, I'm sorry. It takes the most repetitive, mundane elements of the popular Elder Scrolls series and tries to refine them down into something that's and it actually kind of pains me to say it, but easy to play and accessible, because that's what Elder Scrolls games are all about. I know I might sound salty, and that's because I'm salty. I want New Vegas. Yes, please. Either way, I thought Elder Scrolls Blades was a very poor game. It requires an incredible amount of grinding, and it really does feel like a game made for a mobile phone that encapsulates the Elder Scrolls feeling. So if that's what you're after, then don't buy it. Go and get Skyrim. You'll appreciate it, I'm sure. Then we've got the Hollow Knight inspired Gleamlight, which is perfectly timed for this list because it's currently half price. It places its protagonist within a world filled with glass and describes itself as a 2D action game where you're traversing a beautiful transient world that's completely ripped off from Hollow Knight, but done so badly. It's not a Metroidvania, it's a completely linear A to B game where you literally kill the enemies in an area, press a switch, and then move to the next one. When you reach a boss fight, which incidentally are pretty poor in themselves, upon defeating them, you're just given a new ability, but you're not told you've got it. So you might unlock a double jump, but you don't actually get any indication that you've done so. It's all so poor. I know looking at it, you might think, hey, this looks quite good, but even look at the way the characters move and the way the enemies almost use that inverse kinematics that you'd see in a very cheap Flash product. It's just not good. It's funny because the base price of this is more expensive than Hollow Knight, and I know that's not for everyone, but my goodness is it better than this. Don't buy it, do not enter this world of glass stained in darkness, or your mood will be soon to follow it. Incidentally though, in some good news, apparently this month's copy, or it might be January's copy of Edge magazine, have got some exclusive new details on Silksong coming to Switch and other platforms in the very near future, so that's quite exciting and something worth looking out for. This next one was quite a recent addition because I foolishly purchased it because when I was a kid I used to like watching a bit of Fort Boyard with Melinda Messenger, but unfortunately the game is absolute crap. There's loads of different mini games that generally involve bashing a button or moving around trying to collect some item. It's just awful in terms of its gameplay. And then at the end, if you ever remember, you'll be collecting up all this treasure and hoping to use that on something amazing, but you don't. No, you just collect the treasure. Why wouldn't you? Doesn't do anything for you at all, apart from make you realise you've just wasted a piece of your life you're never getting back. The visuals are terrible, the characters are very clunky, in fact they look like lifeless mannequins, but I just have no clue why they've released this at all. It came out at such a premium price as well, it just makes no sense. I managed to pick it up for about £2 and I wish I hadn't. Could have bought a portion of chips with that cash. Disappointing. Let's move on. I was expecting more from Trollhunters Defenders of Arcadia because it comes from way forward, but really it is absolute trash. I guess if you're being paid quite a lot from a big company and they don't really care because the game's supposedly for kids, and I use that in air quote because games for kids in my opinion should still be high quality, but I guess you might rush it out, and there's the whole movie franchise games notoriously being crap, so maybe they had to live up to that. But this is so lackluster. The movement is clunky, the jumping's poor, and the overall gameplay, just look at it. You're literally moving from left to right occasionally, jumping and collecting these pointless things. It's just awful. I tried to review this one actually. I got 2 or 3 levels in and the Switch was almost launched because I got a little bit too frustrated with how bad it was. But yeah, this is definitely up there with one of my worst experiences on Switch. If you've got kids, do them a favour, get them a Mario game. Do not buy them this one. I really do wonder sometimes what is going on over at EA, that they think that it's okay to re-release the exact same game as they had done the previous year and the previous year before, but only on Nintendo Switch. PlayStation, Xbox, cool, they can have the full fat version, but on the Switch we're just going to get the exact same game, reskin a couple of characters, move a few bits around, and we could charge £50 for it, and they're going to lap it up because it's a Nintendo Switch. And no, it's not. It is not cool, and we've seen it done so many times. But unfortunately, I guess in a way, people are showing them that it's okay because they're buying these games, and they really shouldn't. At its core, FIFA 21 isn't a bad game, but nor was FIFA 19, which is FIFA 21. Yeah, it's not cool, and it needs to stop. FIFA 21, don't buy it, basically. That's all I've got to say about that. Next up, we've got a game called Tiny Racer. Now, I saw this as Metacritic's, they recently released their worst games of 2020 list, and this was apparently one of the worst games of all time. So I bought it thinking, no, that looks like Micro Machines, that's going to be alright, come on. It's so bad. Honestly, the controls are appalling. The vehicle seems to levitate a ½ inch above the ground, and there's no real physics here either. It's like fake physics. You go over a jump and it's like a dice is rolled somewhere to decide what actually happens with your car. I actually ended up racing underneath the scenery for about half a lap before the car just flipped out and disappeared. In fact, do you know what? This gives Cyberpunk a run for its money. I reckon Cyberpunk might have used the same car physics engine as this game. It's a title that really epitomizes the whole that looks like a cheap crap mobile game thing that everyone always says in the comments to games that don't deserve it. This really deserves it. It is terrible, and it cost me what? It cost me about £1.79 just now to buy this, and I've got buyer's remorse, which you wouldn't think you could get from that amount of money, but I've just confirmed that can happen. Terrible game. Please do not buy it. I can see why it's Metacritic's, well, in their top 10 worst games of 2020. Terrible. And we're going to go through now a couple of the games that you recommend people avoid based on your own play experience. And interestingly, the first one of those are the Pokemon Sword and Shield games. That received the most votes out of any comment in the community post that we put out. People just think that it's way overpriced and not the Pokemon experience that they wanted, and in fact many of them have felt a great amount of buyer's remorse from it. It's a shame because I think it's actually put a lot of people off buying any Pokemon games in the future, or at least waiting until the majority of reviews have come out after the fact. I didn't think it was terrible, but I can certainly see what they're getting at, but I think there'll be a lot of people that disagree with this one. But thanks for that comment from Khalil. Last but not least then, and this isn't a game that came out in 2020, so I've kind of broken the list there a bit, but it needs to go here. It just has to. There was a time on the channel when we were a little bit smaller. We probably had about 10,000 subs, something like that. And for some reason, I roped Glen into reviewing. I say roped him into it. I don't know what happened. I think all the subscribers were like, yes, we need to see Glen review this game. And he reviewed a game called Go Fishing 3D. And no joke, this is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I'm going to pop a link to it down in the top pinned comment. But here's just a segment of his review.
The title of the game looks like one of those do-it-yourself tattoos you used to get in packs of chewing gum as a kid. You remember when after a couple of days, when it looked all faded and sad on the back of your hand? That's the look Go Fishing 3D goes for its font.
If you know Glen, if you've watched the channel for a while, you know he's generally a little bit more serious than me, and you cannot imagine my delight as he reviewed this absolute piece of garbage. I strongly recommend catching that full review, but this definitely takes the crown so far on SwitchUp as the worst game, and one that you certainly should avoid. It is terrible. Yes, there are many others. Adam Miller says avoid Shanky the Vegan Nightmare. I mean, come on. Just by that title alone, I'm avoiding it. He says the title intrigued him, but unfortunately it was pure garbage. Tim thought that the Nickelodeon Kart Racers games were pretty terrible, so he would say to avoid those. Quite a few people agree with the Gleamlight thing. And Caleb, a regular to the channel, absolutely hated Xenon Racer. He said the performance was crap, and then Asphalt 9 came out for free and was generally a much better game. Thief Simulator got a few mentions, and that Pirates game, which I've definitely mentioned a few times, it's terrible. Oh, and Trollhunters, he had to have a mention as well. So there you have it. Please do pop your worst Nintendo Switch game down in the comments. I think we'll be giving away a game. I'm going to try and find a copy of that Go Fishing 3D to bless you with. Keep your eyes on the channel because we'll be releasing our top 10 Nintendo Switch games of 2020 for myself and Glen in the next coming days. If you enjoy the channel, consider subscribing, and as always, a big thanks to our patrons. If you want to join them, all the links are in the description. And for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!